Welcome to the 5 More Minutes podcast. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 4 of the 5 More Minutes podcast. So today is my favorite. It's stories from you. And so over the last few weeks, you guys have been sending me emails about stories about should. And so I've got 4 here today that I've chosen to share with you. And they range at different roles and different people. But they all have a story connected to should and about how they're all disrupting the should, which I absolutely love. Which is what we heard Donna say in the podcast last time. So who we're talking to today, or who we're hearing from today, is Karen, who is a principal at a distance learning school. And she's talking about how really kind of disrupting the should in supports and how online learning can be a support for all kids. And then we're going to hear from Amy, who is a teacher, and she's talking about how she's disrupting the should from the teacher perspective, because she felt that she was getting should on a lot. And then I have 2 emails from students, Megan, who is in grade 7, and Ben and Will, who are in a combined grade 5-6 class. And so, I'm really excited for you to hear these stories. I think they're great examples, and they're a bit inspiring at the same time. And there are people who are paving the way in each of their communities about how to kind of disable this should that has been very heavy on many of us over time. So can't wait to share with you their stories. So this letter is from a principal named Karen, and I met Karen just 2 days ago. I was working in a town called Saanich, which is on Vancouver Island in British Columbia. And same kind of thing that happened, this is what I'm realizing. When you start a podcast, every person is an opportunity. So I'm listening to Karen talk to me at the break, and I'm like, Karen, you got to type this up. People are going to start avoiding me now because I'm going to force them to type up their stories. So this is from Karen, and she's actually a principal at a distance education center. And as she was talking, because we know that there's a lot of kids moving to distance education or online education, and I always think to myself, there's this misunderstanding that school is just knowledge and just information to be shared. And so I hear kids say, we don't need teachers anymore. We can just do this online, and it's really kind of bringing to the surface what do we need teachers for, and how's the role of teachers evolving? Because kids absolutely still need us, but they just need us for different things. And so what often happens with online learning is that, and Karen's going to tell you this, but it can be seen as a choice, or it can be seen as a last resort, and just what kind of goes around that in terms of the kids that it's being targeted for. So this is Karen, and her email is entitled "Disrupting the Should," which I really like. So here's Karen. Hi, Shelley. Thank you again for the great morning yesterday. She had to leave at lunchtime, so she missed the afternoon. And so she goes, clearly I missed something about baked potatoes that I will have to learn about. I have a new metaphor. It's about baked potatoes, and I love it. I will share it with you one day. Thank you also, she says, for the opportunity to share this story with you. I hope it will be a helpful example for what happens when we disrupt the should in our world. It's probably too long. I'm abysmal at short emails, so please chop, edit, etc. as required. Oh no, Karen, I love long emails. So here we go. I am the principal of SIDES, which is an acronym for the South Island Distance Education School. It is for Distributed Learning, DL, in the Saanich School District. We have over 3,000 students, K-12, school-aged and adult, from all over BC who do their entire program with us, or they can also take individual courses to supplement their school programs in their neighborhood school, which I think is a really nice balance. That was me talking, not Karen. Okay, so this is Karen again. A friend of mine, another distance learning principal, calls schools like ours schools of first choice and last resorts. There are as many individual reasons that students turn to SIDES as there are students, but we're noticing that there are some generalizations that are happening. Our students come to us maybe because they want to try something new or access something that's not available in their neighborhood schools, but they also come to us when conventional schooling has not provided them with opportunities or resources that they've needed for success. We often hear that online learning isn't for everyone, and that is certainly true, particularly when the option is chosen for the student. But neither is the current model of some classrooms, and that's what we would really love people to understand. An online blended classroom, these delivery models all offer features that might appeal to or provide the right opportunities for individual students. And if they were all equally valued choices, then we could teach students about each option, and students could have more agency and figure out for themselves what would work best and in what context and combination. Karen, thank you so much for saying that, because I think sometimes distance learning is almost an illusion of choice. And what I mean by that is, if it's a last resort or there's no other options, that's not a choice anymore, right? And so I think a lot of kids where a conventional school or classroom hasn't worked, their only option is online learning. And when that's the case, that's no longer a choice. And so what I hear Karen saying here is this idea of, well, what if we see online learning as a support and just teach everybody how to use that support, and then we can have more blended classrooms, because we all know that technology is such a huge strength for kids right now. And so I'm really liking where this is going, Karen. I'm totally on the same page with you. So she has an example here that I'm going to share with you. So she says, for example, a couple of years ago, I met with a young woman, we'll call her Joni, which I love that because that's my mother's name. So Joni. So Joni was about to transition from middle school to secondary school, and she came to ask us if she could take a math class outside. Joni and her mom had been to her new school to inquire into options, and they had been advised that sides wasn't an option for her. They said it wasn't for everyone, and a classroom experience was always best, and that grade 9 students are not allowed to have spares. For these reasons, they said, she should do math at her neighborhood school. But Joni had really good reasons for looking at the online option, and she was really articulate about them. Joni was in every way a model neighborhood school student. She was actively and joyfully engaged in her school community and her classes. Her marks were great. She loved school. But she knew that math was a challenge for her. She described it as, math takes up 75% of my energy in my brain for the year just so I can feel like I'm keeping up. And she was worried about having to switch to a semester system, because in a semester system, you take everything in half a year. So she told me she just wanted to be able to focus on learning math without worrying about holding back the class with her questions when she knew that everyone else in the room knew what was going on. And you know what? That's so funny, because I want to talk to Joni, because I would tell her, Joni, you're not the only one with these questions, but I totally know I remember feeling like Joni, where you feel like you're the only one with those questions, and that causes anxiety for sure. So Joni wanted to participate in everything she loved about the experience of school and learning, and just wanted to do math on her own, in her own time, without looking over her shoulder, and just, worrying about what everyone else was doing, thinking, or learning. Joni had lots of support from her parents for this plan. In fact, her mom was doing an accounting course and thought they could do their online learning together. Oh my goodness, that's the cutest thing I've ever heard. She did not just want a spare at school. In fact, she saw it as a chance to add a leadership course to her timetable. But Joni recognized her own needs and was advocating brilliantly for herself, and so of course we enrolled her. And grade 9 was a great year for her in every way. When students are free to look at all the delivery options, to see what's available and to try them out, then we are expanding even further the kinds of supports that we can offer for students, especially the ones that they're designed for. Learning happens in so many ways, but things like choice and agency and relationship and knowing oneself are also always a part of the plan. Thanks again, Shelley, for this opportunity to share, and for all you bring on this quest for inclusive learning opportunities for all students. Have fun recording on the podcast. Thank you, Karen. We could look at this whole story about Joni as such a great, example for so many kids where, supports might not be designed for them, but, if we just teach how to use tools and supports for everybody and, the supports that are available in a distance education setting, you could absolutely have more blended models, and you're going to get to more kids before they get to crisis. So I'm really, really proud of Joni for advocating for herself, because that, my friends, is really how you get inclusive supports in a classroom. And it kind of takes me back to the conversation that I had with Leighton, who I interviewed last month, which was this whole idea about, you can look at what should be done in terms of the research and literature, but what makes it wise, as opposed to just research, is, considering the people who it's impacting, the classroom, the individuals, the parents, the families. And so I think this is a great example, Karen. So what are we going to take from this? I'm going to take from this, let's not should on kids, especially kids who are advocating for supports. They may not be using the supports that we think that they should be, or need to be, but I think we got to let go of that control, which really aligns with a lot of the conversations around self-regulated learning. And so thank you, Karen, and hi to Joni and her mom. Okay, so this email is from someone I met in a beautiful little town in Nelson, British Columbia. I'd never been there, but it's this beautiful, picturesque little love city in the middle of the Kootenays, and people ski and people eat burgers, and it's like my dream happy place. So this is Amy, and she was at a session that I was working with school teams. So this was the first session of a series, and when I was talking with her, she was my head nodder. Every time I do a presentation, I always look for my head nodder in the crowd, because then if everything else is going south, I know that I always have them. So she was my head nodder that day, and so we were talking, and as she's talking about kind of her experience, I just kept thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, this would be such a good story for the podcast. So I begged her and said, Amy, I know that you're not too busy. How about you write this in an email and send it to me so I can share it on the podcast? And so, Amy, I know that you're very busy, so I very much appreciate you taking the time. So this is Amy's email. Hi, Shelley. It's Amy, the one who loves teaching through analogies and metaphors, loves a good visual, and fully believes in carpets in classrooms at every age. Amy, me too. So while listening to your talk today, your mention of being should on resonated with me. I have had the opportunity to work in a fantastic Indigenous school in northern British Columbia, the inner city of London, England, a small independent school in Victoria, and now a fabulous middle school in Nelson, who very much values and celebrates inclusion. Yay, Nelson! Each time I move schools, however, I'm often met with more than one should being layered on me by my mostly well-meaning staff. In particular, I like to set up my classroom before the school year starts, and as an elementary trained, pedagogically ever-changing to meet the composition of that year's class teacher, that was all in dashes because Amy's so funny. So as an elementary trained teacher, I pride myself on creating a welcoming and supportive learning environment. In other words, I decorate. I'm an artist, and the classroom is my canvas. I aim to create a place where children like to be. But then sometimes my colleagues tell me that my classroom is too elementary for the grade that I'm teaching. But last time I checked, the kids are still 10 and 11. Even in middle school, elementary can be a compliment. All children need a place to learn and a place where they feel like they belong. If I can create a classroom like that, that comes through the children, and I take pride in that, and so do they. I love it. As one of my good friends says, after all, you do you, and I'll do me. Amy, you have no idea how much that slogan has got me through my life. Okay, moving on. Then you continued your fantastic presentation of learning, and I physically nodded along. Yes, you did, Amy. Thank you so much. In my head, I was thinking, of course, and why not? And yeah, well, obviously, but then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Not everybody sees things the way that we do. Even still, I do not claim to be an inclusion expert, and I know I still have a lot to do and a lot to explore. It's the curse of being a lifelong learner. I love the new connections I made today and the different strategies and styles for teaching, learning, and planning. However, the premise and value of inclusion is a fully held pedagogical, real-life must in my world. A few times in my career, I have had this hit me, and each time it takes me by surprise. How are we, in 2018, still debating over whether inclusive practices are important for all learners? Why is it so hard to change the minds of people who struggle through the very system that we're trying to change? Why isn't it just known that the best practice for Timmy is just the best practice for everybody? Amy, We need to put that on a t-shirt. That is so true. That is so true. The more I learn about inclusion, the more I'm like, this is just good. This is just good teaching. Okay, so here's what else Amy has to say. Lastly, when you spoke about scaffolding for children, I was again nodding like a bobblehead on the dashboard. And then I found myself thinking, I have recently shifted into a more leadership role, and I was thinking about my staff. You came right out and said what I was thinking. We can't just scaffold change for kids. We also have to scaffold change for our teachers and our support staff. And then she writes this in the email, which I have to spell out because I'm not a millennial, but it says, yes, like YAAAAASSSSS, which I'm laughing so hard because in parentheses she says, my mini millennial use of slang. And Amy, you're so funny. Okay, so after the yes, she says, it's important as school leaders at any level that we remember to scaffold the changes for our colleagues. Change is hard. It's hard for children. It's hard for adults. It is just hard. So true. But in bite-sized chunks, it's like Lego. If you tell me to take the Lego and build a model of the CN Tower, I will laugh at you. It will take too long, and I'll just quit. I won't want to. I'm really good at building box stores, so that's what I'll continue to do. I will try, but I get really discouraged thinking about it. But if we took bite-sized steps, yes, one block at a time, before you know it, I will have built a replica of the CN Tower. After the session, I went on to meet up with a teacher friend, and I was literally buzzing. 10 minutes of lightning fast verbosity later, and my friend was also saying yes too. I don't know if I'm enunciating that properly, if it's yes or yes or yes or yes. No, I know it's not yes, but it's cute. She says, that is a very long way to say thank you for today. I can't wait till the next session. And her sign-off quote is so cute. It says, brick walls are there for a reason. They let us know how badly we want something. Amy, thank you so much for this email. I love it. I love it so much because, you know, when you like read a message and it's written how a person talks, like if you knew Amy, you would know that this is exactly how she talks. So I hope that I did Amy justice in trying to communicate her incredible personality. So I could totally see why your kids love you. And I think that this has been a really big learning for me as well, just the importance of scaffolding for adults and staff. And, you know, we grew up in a very different time, us adults, and so I think this transition, it's okay that it's hard and it's okay that it's scary. And so I know that Kim Ondrick, who I interviewed in the last podcast, that really came through from her and I conversation about just be gentle on ourselves and each other and help us to move through this change together, because I think it is a paradigm shift that's happening, especially in British Columbia. There's a lot of things lining up in ways that haven't before in the past. So Amy, thank you for sharing that. And you know what? I agree. You do you. You want to decorate your elementary classroom, you have a great time, because I remember when I was 10, and when I was 10, I was still in elementary school. So, you know what? It all depends. It all depends on the school. So, thank you, Amy, and you do you. So this next email is probably one of my most favorite stories, and I didn't know if I should save this story, but I think I think this is a good one. I think this is a good one for this theme. Probably about a year ago, a teacher came up to me and said, Shelly, I have a question. And she goes, you know, every year we do a grade 6-7 school trip as a retreat. And usually, you know, the activities that we do, the kids, they're outdoor activities like kayaking and all these things, and skiing. And she's like, but I have a question. She goes, we have a student who's coming next year who has a physical disability, and we don't know if she should go. And so we don't know what to do because, you know, if she can't go skiing or she can't do these outdoor activities, is it really a retreat for the whole class? And I have had this question before from people, because it's that weighing out of and the misunderstanding that, you know, one person is holding the rest of the kids back. And that always kind of sat funny with me, because especially for community school trips, is that sometimes we kind of lose track of why we're doing things. And, you know, there was one time, I think it was the kayaking one, where someone said, you know, everyone has always gone kayaking and now we can't go kayaking. And so I feel like, you know, what if the other kids want to go kayaking? And I kind of had to think about this for a while, because I'm like, you know, the curriculum isn't about kayaking. The curriculum isn't the goal, or kayaking isn't the goal. And so if we actually, like, you know, forget what we've done in the past and just go back and say, you know, why do we do these classroom retreats? Why do we do these grade retreats? It's not to go kayaking, it's to build community. And once you kind of pull back that layer and realize that kayaking is not the only way to build community, especially an inclusive community, you know, you realize that there's other things you can do. And I think, you know, especially in British Columbia, I see more and more examples of accessible activities for people with physical disabilities. And so I think that it's kind of really forcing ourselves out of that kids can't do it or shouldn't do it, and really start to look at why are we doing this. And I can guarantee you that it's more important that everyone participate than it is that everyone goes kayaking. So me and Shelley, another Shelley who I had this conversation with, it was a very quick conversation, and because they had this situation where, you know, they had this, you know, this class, this grade-wide retreat, and they have the student that they have to kind of figure out. And so I said to her, because they went skiing every year, and so I asked her, I was just like, okay, well, my first question is, you know, is skiing the goal? And, you know, and skiing's not the goal. It's about community and community building. So then the next question was, well, maybe there's accessible skiing. Like, maybe there's actually supports at the ski hill to support the student, who I'm going to tell you about in a second, to go skiing. Like, you never know, like, just look and ask them. And they ended up looking at a different ski hill, but what ended up happening was pretty cool. And I'm going to read you a letter that was written by the student herself. So this is, her name is Megan, and this is her experience about being included on the class trip with her peers. So here she is. It's called See Ya on the Slopes. Hi, my name is Megan, and I am a grade 7 student at Okanagan Falls Elementary School. My class changed their entire aim by making sure that all the pieces fit together for me to be just like everyone else on our ski trip last March. She says change her aim because of the metaphor of bowling. It's that examples of how schools change their aim for the hard to reach pins, so that, and how it benefits other people. So that's why she said change your aim. So then she says, you see, I am a girl that has CP, which is cerebral palsy, and as a result, I have some challenges. Everyone has challenges, and my challenge is that I'm in a wheelchair and I don't have use of my legs and my arms. I am lucky because I am able to see, think, and help others through my voice and singing. I had a team, and my class supported me last March. It started with my teacher, Mrs. Gittle, and my principal, Mrs. Sinclair, contacting Dan, my physiotherapist. He found Bryce, who thankfully literally just started an adapted skiing program that's called Blue Jays Adaptive Sports at Mount Baldry outside of beautiful Oliver, BC. He came to my home and helped size me up in an adaptive ski suit. We wanted to make sure I was comfortable and safe. There was a team that helped me that day. We had a bus driver who helped me get in and out of the bus. I had 3 educational assistants, 3 teachers, my principal, and most importantly, all of my friends helped me. The first run, I was so nervous. I didn't want to do it. My class, Dan, the PT, my teachers, the adaptive ski coach, and my friends were all cheering me on. Many of us, including myself, had never been skiing. The first run felt amazing. I even had a friend who decided to join me. It felt exhilarating and like I was flying. By the second run, I was going up the big chairlift to the top of the mountain with my friends. I was unstoppable. How did this impact my community? As a school, we came together and we helped each other get over our fear of skiing. We have been featured in many articles because of this event. I don't mean to brag, but I'm kind of a celebrity in our community. Megan, you are so funny. We often talk about this day and the fun that we had. My confidence has grown so much this past week, and I want to now be an advocate for all people with CP. Specifically on that day, I noticed that my friend wasn't skiing. At lunch, I explained to her how fun it was and how we should meet at the top of the beginner hill. She very slowly got her things and met me at the top. She followed me down the hill and by the end of the day was teaching other people how to ski. It was so much fun to see her skiing also. I saw her face light up and it felt amazing. My friends, Mount Baldy, and my school and support team had a fabulous and unforgettable day. Since that day, my confidence has grown, and now I'm going to be an advocate. Like I say to people, be the bird and spread the word. If you are ever in the Oliver area, meet me on the slopes. Megan! Ugh. I'm going to have to take a break after that one. That was so good. I had an opportunity to meet Megan. I don't know if she still is, but when I met her, she was in a choir, and so her and her friends were performing for us, which it was just phenomenal. She has also connected to her email some links about her experience on Mount Baldy, Mount Baldy Resort, and I will post those pictures for you to see. Megan, thank you so much, and I think that's such a great example of sometimes we should on kids, and Megan, I think you've made it pretty clear not to should on you, because you are a pretty incredible girl, so don't should on Megan. She can do it. She can do it. So thank you, Megan, and I am so excited. I can't wait to meet you again, and because you are making a difference, my friend. Now, the second part of this story is pretty cool because Megan and her classmates had the opportunity to go to WE Day in Vancouver just this past week, and so it kind of took a whole other team and community to come together to make sure that she got there, because they had to travel to Vancouver, which is quite a few hours away. And so I was in contact with her support teacher, Shelley Giddle, and so I guess they had figured everything out, but they needed to have a portable lift for the ramp. And so I shared it on Twitter. She shared it on Twitter. We shared it on Facebook. And within minutes, we had people contacting us about ways that they could help, so they could get to make sure that Megan got to go to WE Day with her friends. And they tweeted a picture. And so I think that, Megan's such a great example of, don't tell her she can't do something or shouldn't do something, because she's leaving her mark in her little town, and I agree, she's absolutely a celebrity. I want to also thank Shelley, the support teacher, because I know that when I first talked to Shelley, she was new to the community, and she is just paving the way and really making her mark and supporting kids in so many ways. And so thank you, Shelley, for what you do. Megan, thank you for what you do, and everyone who supported Megan to be successful, not only on her school trip or WE Day, but just the everyday. And so yeah, thanks again, friends. I think this is a really great story to share. Megan, you're going to have to do more cool things so I can keep sharing them, because people are going to wonder about how you're doing. Thanks, guys. Okay, so this is a funny story. So recently I was in Stratford, Ontario, and if you don't know about Stratford, Ontario, some might say that it's famous for its theater. I, however, think it's famous for some other reason, which is it's the home of Justin Bieber. And if you know anything about me, you know that I love my JB. Although, just so we're clear, I had the bangs first. So, Justin Bieber is from Stratford. And so, when I got to go there, I was so excited. I went on the Justin Bieber walking tour. I saw the star. I will post it. It was very cool. The other great thing about Stratford is I got to work with the school district in the area. And they were also, they were, I think, just as exciting and fantastic as JB. So this is an individual who was at the session, and she came up to me and she was wearing this shirt that said "Choose an Inclusion," and I was just like, that's the greatest shirt ever. And so she kind of came up to me and she's talking to me about her son, and so I was just like, well, tell your son to send me an email, because what I'll hear often from people who don't have a lot of experience with people with disabilities is, kids with disabilities shouldn't be in classes with peers. They hold them back. They take away from the learning. I remember I was listening to the radio one day, and I just couldn't believe it. A parent called in to CBC during the teacher strike that was happening a couple of years ago, and she said on the radio, she goes, I'm just lucky that I can afford to send my kids to private school so that they don't have to deal with kids with special needs, because kids with special needs shouldn't be there. And I was just like, I was so sad by that caller for the first reason, for just the content of the conversation. But the part that bothered me even more than that was that parent was so confident about that she called into the radio to share it. Now, you got to be pretty confident about something to share on the radio, and I just thought, like, that, just how sad that is, and what a disservice that is for her kids to not be able to learn from kids with all abilities. And so, I think that is a very, very common should, that sometimes people are confident enough to share on the radio, but I think more often people will say it under their breath or say it kind of to each other, because I think it's very prevalent still that there's this assumption that kids with disabilities are burdens, and it's a really heartbreaking should to me. So this mom, she sent me this email, and I'm not going to tell you a lot about it because I just want you to hear it. So she sent me an email, and this is end of October. She goes, "Hi Shelly, it was wonderful to meet you yesterday. I was the woman with the Choose an Inclusion t-shirt who connected with you at the end of the day about how inclusion has had a positive effect on her children. Stratford is not a very diverse community in many ways, and so I was very thankful for the steps that my school board has taken towards inclusion and would fight for these opportunities for my children. I think my son would take a stand as well." So when she's telling me about her son, like, I actually assumed that he had a disability, and then she kept talking. So now listen to this. "Please read the email below from my son. If you ever need kids to chat about the positive impacts about inclusion, he would be more than willing to do so. His teacher this year is exceptional in how she models, and I'm sure the whole class would be able to share. It was so wonderful to meet you yesterday. I love all that you do and what you stand for. Thank you, Karen." And look what she adds at the end. She's like, "And just so you know, you're the only celebrity that I've ever met and asked for a picture for." Now, normally I wouldn't include that because I don't think I'm a celebrity, except then she says this. "I didn't even ask Justin Bieber when we ran into him last summer." Okay, I'll take that as a compliment because I would have been totally starstruck. Okay, so that's the mom. Her name is Karen. And so then she says, "Here is a message from my son, Will." So this is her son now emailing me about his experience in his class. So here he is. "Hi, Shelly. My mom told me about you, and I thought it might be a good idea for me to email you about my friend Ben at school. Ben is a year older than me, but we have been in the same class because we have many split classes at my school. I'm in grade 5, and Ben is in grade 6. Ben is a really great kid who has Down syndrome. My friend Ben always puts a smile on my face. For example, when I am not feeling well, he always checks in on me and asks if I'm okay. He is so nice and likes to give a lot of high fives and hugs. We are helping to teach him about hugging and touching, maybe just not so much. I really like it at school this year because I get to play with Ben even more than last year. Last year we had a sign up to play with Ben, and so I couldn't always play with him. But this year we can just play with Ben. We don't have to sign up, and Ben can choose who he wants to play with. It seems more right." Will, you are more evolved than most adults on this planet. Okay, continuing on. "During work time, Ben can often choose a partner. I like that Ben chooses me a lot. That makes me feel special to be important to somebody. He has great ideas to share, and when we work together, he helps me too. When I was planning my birthday party, I thought about Ben a lot this year. He is always nice to me, plays with me, and so I consider that a friend. He usually invites the whole class to his birthday party, and so I thought that he should be invited to ours too. I got talking to another boy in my class about it, and he helped me to figure out what Ben might need at a birthday party. I asked my mom to go bowling because I knew that Ben could do it, and then we could just use bumpers and the ramp. My birthday is today, and Ben is coming, along with 5 of my other friends too." Will, it's your birthday. Okay, so today's not your birthday, but let's see when this email was. October 27th. Your birthday is October 27th. Happy birthday, Will. And so I don't know if you guys caught that, but he changed his birthday party so that Will would have success. That Ben would have success. Will, you need to become a teacher. Talk to me when you're 22. Okay, moving on. Then he says, If I didn't have people like Ben in my life, I might be more afraid or unsure of how to talk with them. Now I get to learn about what they need, like reminders or help with work, and how to talk to all different kinds of people. I have learned that it's better to stay calm and show the person what to do instead of yelling or getting upset. So for example, Ben and I have a special handshake for when it's the right time to do a high five or to give a touch. Ben is my friend. That is all. I'm happy to have him in my life. Will. Okay, deserves a clap. Thank you, Will. And you know what? I feel like I want to talk to you. So, don't be surprised if I call you. I think it'd be really neat to talk to you and Ben actually together, because I think this is a really great example of friendship. And I think sometimes we forget that, we often know we can be friends with people who are different races and colors and genders and cultures, but sometimes I don't think we all know that we can be friends with people who have different abilities than us. So Ben and Will, you are a great model and a great example to share with the world. So thank you, Will, for taking the time to write that email on your birthday. Good for you, buddy. And it was really cute because I have to actually show you one more thing. I emailed them back to say I would love to use this on the podcast. And it was so cute because his mom said, this is just yesterday, she says, "Hi, Shelly, thanks so much for taking the time to get back to us. Will was jumping all over the house tonight when he learned that you emailed back. He wants to write a speech now on the benefits of inclusion. Yep, someone is inspired. Equity, inclusion, and hedgehogs are seen to all the things he wants to talk about this day." She also says that we have permission to use their names. And so thank you to Karen, thank you to Will, thank you to Ben, and it also says that Ben's parents say that we can use Ben's name too. So thank you to both Ben and Will's families, and to Ben and Will yourself. I think that there's a lot of people who are much older than you who could learn about just how to be good friends with people. So happy birthday to you, Will. Hi to Ben. Hi to the family. And oh my goodness, I'm just going to call you guys. Stay tuned. Ben and Will are going to be back. Okay, wow. I don't even know where to start. I am currently in Winnipeg, and I'm working in Winnipeg for this week. And so I'm sitting in my hotel room, I'm reading all these emails, and I'm just totally blown away by, first of all, how just the time that people are spending to send me emails. Thank you so much to everybody who reached out and sent their story. Please know that I read them all. But a big thank you to the 4 people that we kind of highlighted today. I think that this is kind of our last podcast or our last content connected to Should, and I'm really glad that we kind of paid attention to it. We weren't going to at first, but I think that the concept of should is quite disabling on all of us, regardless of whether we're in leadership roles or educators, parents or kids. And I think it has a lot of power. And so I've been really kind of holding on to what Donna mentioned last time on the podcast, which is how do we disrupt the should? And listening to Karen's story about how she's, making online learning accessible to more kids, and, Amy, who is just being herself and being her, and not allowing, people who have different values and perspectives and practices, like that's okay, like you have a rationale, you're doing what works best for your kids. And then hearing from Megan and Ben and Will and their classmates, and I think from both sides of don't should on kids with disabilities, but also don't should on kids without disabilities, because I think what I'm really learning from kids in all the classes that I'm in is the power of being together. And it is hard work, and we're shifting a paradigm, but the kids are doing it, and they know what to do. And so really I find sometimes us adults are lagging a little farther behind because this is new for us, but these kids, they just know this is how they've grown up and this is where they've come from. So a big thank you to Megan and Ben and Will for sharing your story about how you're making a difference and not letting should stop you in any way. So keep doing what you're doing, because you're teaching us old and wise and experienced people, more experienced people, how to live life today, and to appreciate all kinds of diversities and how much we can learn from each other. So thank you to everybody who did that. Our next month is actually going to be a little bit different because there's a great big holiday smack in the middle of December and January. We are actually doing our content a little bit different. The first week of December, we're going to release the next 5 more minutes video, and so it's going to be actually a really big framework video that we've been building towards. That is going to be a really big kind of connection to the work that we do following up December and January. So the first week of December is going to be big because it is going to be the video, and then we're going to have week 2, the podcast, and then we're going to take a break for the holidays because I really doubt that you're going to want to be listening to this podcast on Christmas Day. So then we're going to come back in the last 2 weeks of January. So we have a little bit more time to digest, a little bit more time to process, and also time with our families and our friends, which is just as important as our hard work that we do. So we're going to take a little break, but not until the 3rd week of December. So make sure you tune in the 1st week of December. It's going to be great. And so stay tuned for that. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. That is a wrap for podcast number 4. So stay tuned for next week for new content. And you can find us on so many things. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Podbean and Spotify. So pretty much any podcast platform. If you kind of want to see previous, kind of like how everything is connected together in previous episodes and previous themes, head to 5moreminutes.com because that is what kind of the home base where you'll find kind of discussion questions, scripts, and research and all of the things that are connected to all of this content. Or if you want to see kind of the framework, head there. We are number 16 in the top podcast education podcast this week, so keep liking, keep subscribing, write some comments, let me know what you're thinking about. The response that we're getting is so great, and the feedback is just so positive. So I'm so glad that people are listening and that they're finding the content useful, and so as long as it is, we're gonna keep on going. So a big thank you also to my cousin Paul, who is producing all of the content. So from all the way from New Jersey and New York. So thank you, Cousin Paul. I appreciate all of your hard work, and thank you to everyone who's listening. We will see you in a week.